hopefully embody more and more. That humility can't help but flow from our love of God and people. I'm going to be honest with you. It grates me to no end when people who are so obviously not humble wax eloquent on humility or are appointed as Christian leaders. And then we wonder why people have such a bad taste in their mouth when they think of the church in the United States. It's because humility is so rare. Not so with Dennis Edwards. It strikes me as quite ironic that such an extremely accomplished person, a musician, athlete, New Testament scholar, pastor, preacher with a BS in chemical engineering from Cornell, former high school teacher, and currently dean of North Park Seminary and vice president of church relations, who has sat on boards of organizations, is writing about humility. It strikes me as ironic because as an African American man, he and his ancestors know continual humiliation at the hands of those who have wielded and continue to wield power in the U.S. And still, he calls us to be humble. Here he is, and here we are, holding this treasure of a book from a brother who is so accomplished and yet speaking from the margins, not the top of the hierarchy. The way of Jesus is most often embodied and communicated by those on the margins, from those who depend on God alone for who they are. This is why I can trust the content of this book. Edwards embodies humility. He is a true leader and surely among the greatest in the kingdom of God. Not because he is so accomplished in the world's eyes, but because he is so humble, which is indicative of his intimacy with God. His humility and our humility garner God's favor, for God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. James chapter 4, verses 4 through 7. So as we collectively take heed of Edwards's words, we will begin to look more and more like Jesus to both those inside and those outside the church. Dennis is an expert and reliable guide. I am honored to sit at his feet and learn. May we be countercultural, even in the church, as we grow in humility. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Edwards, for showing us the way. Acknowledgements. Shortly after moving to Illinois, I had the privilege of connecting with Jeff Crosby, former IVP publisher, whom I had met previously at a conference, and with former IVP academic editor Anna Mosley Gissing. Jeff and Anna each affirmed how my writing reflects both my academic and pastoral experiences. I'm grateful for associate publisher and academic editorial director John Boyd, who helped shepherd this book to publication. I earned my PhD in biblical studies at a time when there were relatively few African American biblical scholars in the country, but I did not move right away into a full-time academic position. I opted instead to teach as an adjunct instructor while remaining a pastor in Washington, D.C. Washington became home for nearly 18 years after moving from Brooklyn, New York, where I started New Community Church in our family's apartment. After serving several years at Washington Community Fellowship Church on Capitol Hill, I planted Peace Fellowship Church in a neighborhood east of the Anacostia River. I concluded my years of pastoral ministry after serving 6 years as senior pastor of the Sanctuary Covenant Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I mention these churches because they taught me about God and about myself and helped me to mature as a servant of God. 2 men I met in Washington have been especially helpful, not only with regard to this book, but with much of my life. I love Reverend Randy Haycock and Ben Byerly. These brothers in the faith embody the humility I attempt to describe throughout this book. Their love and support continue to provoke me in my efforts to demonstrate love and do good deeds, as the writer of Hebrews admonishes. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24. I acknowledge the North Park Theological Seminary community. My faculty and staff colleagues, along with the students, continually enrich my life through their faith, service, and love for God's people. Special acknowledgement goes to my predecessor, David Kirsten, to the current Dean of Faculty, Hannah Andre, and to New Testament Professor Max Lee.